nighttime, it was total darkness. There was not even a light bulb. Can you imagine a whole city of people, not one light bulb on at night? These people were isolated like you could never imagine that kind of isolation. If you would go through to go to Hamburg or go to somewhere else by train, they would all be on the train station watching the train go because that's all they could do was watch. Okay. So Checkpoint Charlie was something that we always heard about in America, but it was the place that was verboten. You don't go there. You don't go through there. You don't.
Welcome to Flourish in the Foreign, the award-winning podcast that celebrates, elevates, and affirms the voices and stories of Black women living and thriving abroad while exploring living abroad as a pathway to wellness. I'm your host, Christine Job, a Black American with Trinidadian roots, business strategist and writer from Atlanta, based in Valencia, Spain. Hey everyone, welcome to Flourish in the Foreign. I am Christine. Welcome back to the show. If you're new, welcome to the show. Glad to have you. I want to thank you guys so much for just being so receptive of the Aging Abroad miniseries. I really appreciate y'all. That being said, I have gotten some feedback on the last episode, and we were talking about finances with regard to aging abroad. Some people really enjoyed the episode and was like, this has given me so much to think about. And other people did not like the episode because it lacked specificities. It was only questions. And look, I can take it. I can take fair criticism. I welcome fair criticism. You know, I'm a big dog. I ain't a little puppy. Okay? And I want to be responsive to y'all because I can understand that it could be quite generalized, but you also have to understand that I'm trying to make an episode that can be useful for the majority of y'all. But I can understand how that can be frustrating if you're really looking for specificities, especially because I definitely talk about asking specific questions in several of my episodes. So how about this? Although, I've been trying to close this season off, but I find myself still recording. How is that possible? I want to do this. If you have specific questions in regards to not just even finances while aging abroad, anything, I'm going to try to put together an Ask Me or Ask the Experts episode at the end of season 6. Okay? That's what I'm going to try to do. What you need to do is if that feels good to you, if you're like, I have questions, you need to send me the questions at hello@flourishintheforeign.com. Ask me the questions. Also give me some context as into who is this in reference to? Like, is this a question for me, Christine? Is this a question for, I don't know, Adelia or Tadre or whomever? Do that. I'm going to, advertise this in a couple more episodes, but I'm obviously not going to do it to the very end because, I got things to do. And, I have everything recorded already. So now I got to record some more. I want to be responsive to y'all because I love y'all and because I want to encourage this type of dialogue between us. And I want y'all to get as much benefit as you can from these incredible guests that I have on the show, from their knowledge and things like that. So that's what I'm going to do. All right. Please feel free to leave comments on the episode, spotify.com, email me. Leave me comments or messages on social media, anything like that. Again, I can take fair criticism. Nonsense? No. But fair criticism, yes. Because this show really is about an exploration of living abroad as a pathway to wellness, a holistic sense of wellness. And I want us to dig deep. I always say that wellness is not crystals and bath bombs. So let's dig deeper together. And in the book that I'm writing, I am exploring living abroad as a liberation praxis, particularly for Black women. And so, what does that mean in practice? And a praxis has to be specific. So, I'm okay with all of this. I am very intrigued and I look forward to specific questions. If y'all are looking for Move Abroad with Intention one-on-one coaching program, I'm going to open, I think, 1 or 2 spots for February. So get at me if you're interested in that. You can learn more at flourishintheforeign.com/MAI-course. If you're interested in business strategy, if you have a business, you've been thinking about having a business, starting a business so that you can be location independent, so that you can utilize your own intellectual property, your own experience, your own expertise, and craft it into an asset that leads you to, have that soft life, soft business that I talk about. Learn more at christinejob.com. Watch my free training and get at me if you have further questions and you want to work with me. All right, that's it for me. Let's get into this week's episode. Season 6, Episode 6. Today's guest is Michele McCain. Michele is a global motivational storyteller and thought leader, singer-songwriter, and actress. I must tell y'all, I say this all the time because I truly do enjoy interviewing all my guests. And if they allowed me to ask all the questions I want, I'd probably sit with each guest for 10 hours. But when I tell you, I absolutely adored chatting with Michele. I can't even really put it into words. Michele is a rock star, and I have never interviewed a rock star before, and I was just completely blown away. She has lived a life, okay? When we talk about cultivating a life well lived, Michele, she is that woman. So without further ado, I'm going to let Michele tell you all about it.
My name is Michele McCain. I am in Palma de Mallorca, Spain, and I'm 70 years old. I've been in Spain almost 40 years, and I toured 2 years prior to that all around Europe with the Broadway show. I'm born in Brooklyn in an Italian neighborhood, you can imagine. Okay, so my godparents are Sicilianos. So I was raised with an international surrounding. When you're from New York, that's the melting pot. Everybody's from there. Everybody comes there. And Europe has always been somewhere that I wanted to come. But that came from my Josephine Baker days, watching Josephine Baker, and I wanted to come to Paris, and I wanted to walk down the street with a panther on a leash and all these kind of things. So I'm very fantasiosa. I have a big fantasy mind. Yeah, it makes a big difference when you grow up in the surroundings that I did. Also, the theater influenced me so much. I remember as I got older and friends would come back from Europe, especially Germany, and they would leave each other and go, choose, choose. And I was like, oh, that's so cool, that word. I love that. I want to say that. But I knew I had to come here first and learn what it was about in order to say it. And being this little Black girl growing up in Brooklyn, and I've been on the stage since I'm 13. And probably my first time on stage was at 6. The boys go play baseball or basketball on Saturdays, and the girls went to dance class. So I went to dance class, and my first recital was one of those 6 to 9-year-old things. And then at 13, I actually toured with James Brown.
I must say that chatting with Michele was an absolute dream because I asked questions I never considered I would ever ask anyone or be in a position to ask anyone. Like, what was it like touring with James Brown?
one of my most memorable gigs with him was at Stay Stadium, and there were 60,000 people, and I was dancing the witch doctor passed me a 7-foot boa constrictor, which politely bit me in the boob, because we're talking about 60,000 people, the lights, it's hot, he's tired, he's heavy. And of course, they sense very quickly the movements. So my left hand started to get tired and I kind of let it come down a bit. And he lunged for me. Thank God I had quick reflexes. He bit me, but he didn't hook me. So I danced off the stage, 60,000 people, thinking that it was part of the thing. And I danced off, and there was the security guard all hysterical. My mother hysterical. Everybody was hysterical. He wanted to shoot it. You can't shoot it. He's hooked to me. You can't shoot him, you know? And yeah, I started out with a bang. Every artist's dream, if you're from New York, is to go to performing arts. I was not allowed into performing arts because they said my thighs were too big. And because we're dealing with ballerinas at that time, that was the heavy influence. So I learned everything from my friends apart from the dancing school days. But I'm a firm believer in doing it and learning from doing it, hands-on do it. So all of this influences the Broadway, my friends being dancers, all of these kinds of things. I did go to university in California. I went to Northridge University. I didn't finish it because the stage was stronger and I went back to New York. But all of these things are lessons and blessings. So it's all right. Everything you pick up along the way, you can use it at some point. If you don't use it today, you use it tomorrow, in 1 year, or in 5 years. So it started back then, and I just never stopped. And in my 20s, I signed my first contract on Broadway. So I had put my light bulb in the marquees of Broadway, the Great White Way, as they say, in Ain't Misbehavin'. I was one of Nell Carter's standby before I took over the role. And I did Ain't Misbehavin' for 5 years, touring all over the world, touring all over Canada and all over America, and then eventually coming to Europe and touring all over Europe.
I asked Michele to share with us her experiences living and working in Europe.
After you do Broadway, then they do the national company, then they do the international company, which includes Canada, that's the international part, and maybe Mexico, et cetera, et cetera. After that, you come to Europe. So I was brought to Europe with the Broadway show. I was brought in the first line. I played almost every theater in Europe, some of the best theaters in Europe. And the funny thing was, I always wanted to come here. We are so uninformed about Europe. Okay, there was a certain group of people that got their backpacks in the summertime and were sent to Europe, and they came over here for some months and they went around that. Little Black children didn't do that. We're doing it now, but we didn't do it then. So I came over. I didn't know what to expect. I fell in love with it. It was just amazing to see all of the different countries and all of these people that you just didn't know in their habitat. One thing is if you're in New York, one thing is coming over here. You know that. So after being almost 2 years on tour here, I was asked to do Barnum in Germany. So I stayed. Now, I'm the one who never spoke another language. I never did any of those things when we were in different countries. In Italy, I never came out and said, bonjour, and none of that. I always kept it straight. I always did the show as it was written. And I said, oh, I'm going to stay in Germany. Oh. So I had 2 weeks to learn the script and the songs. 2 weeks. Ich und. My lips were chapped. I cried. I had an incredible teacher. And I learned how to do it. I did it. And the funny thing about it is that when the last show of Ain't Misbehavin' was in Berlin, we were at the Theater des Westens in Berlin, and I didn't even want to go to Berlin. They had to fly me into Berlin because I was afraid of Checkpoint Charlie. That's why I say we know nothing about Europe. So it was Checkpoint Charlie. I'm not going through Checkpoint Charlie. They put people in jail. They do this. They do that. So I was totally, of course, ignorant without that knowledge. I'm the one that ended up staying in Berlin. I love Berlin. Ich bin eine Berliner. I love it. And I had a fabulous time. I had a fabulous time. And I learned the show and I did it. And I was there almost 2 years. Checkpoint Charlie is the police that guarded the wall. So you cannot imagine what it's like, because I had various apartments there. And one of the last apartments I had was, I was like on the 40th floor and I looked into the east. Okay. Nighttime, it was total darkness. There was not even a light bulb. Can you imagine a whole city of people, not one light bulb on at night? These people were isolated like you could never imagine that kind of isolation. If you would go through to go to Hamburg or go to somewhere else by train, they would all be on the train station watching the train go, because that's all they could do was watch. Okay. So Checkpoint Charlie was something that we always heard about in America, but it was the place that was verboten. You don't go there. You don't go through there. You don't that. But it was very curious that I did a movie with Mickey Rooney and we were nominated for the Bear Award in Berlin. And I went back all those years later and the wall is down. I love East Berlin. It's absolutely amazing. It has a touch of the old world, but in a modern, almost like the Village. If you can remember how the Village was in New York, it's got that Village kind of feeling, and the buildings have that kind of touch to it. And I absolutely adore East Berlin now. It's quite a change from seeing them in the dark, total darkness, to seeing all this life going on there. I went to London after that, had total culture shock. Total. I didn't understand it at all. When you go on their main street, I was surprised because I didn't see anybody that looked like me. We were nowhere. We weren't in the shops. We weren't selling anything. We weren't in the receptions in the hotels. You have to remember, I'm traveling as an artist, so I'm traveling first class everywhere, hotels, everything. We're talking about 40 years ago, so we're talking about a very long time ago. Being that, I was like, where's everybody at? I remember answering an ad after a while, and they said, "Excuse me, are you a colored lady?" And I said, "Yes." And they said, "We never thought of that." I said, "You're looking for a blues jazz singer, and that's not the first thing that came to your mind? Sorry, this is not computing for me." So I had big culture shock there. And then I discovered all the Black people were in Brixton. And then many years later, I went back, maybe 10, 15 years later, I went back, and then everybody was Black and Indian, and there were no white people on Bond Street. They had flipped the switch. But I love England for some things, but it's not, I don't get them too much. I don't get it. The humor, we were taught England was peace and love. All you need is love, the Beatles and hippies and all of that. But I didn't feel that when I went there. I didn't feel that. And while I was in England, when I was in London, they were looking for me because they wanted me to come to Spain to do the Spanish version of Barnum. And of course, I was ready to get out of there. So I was like, hey, let's hit it. I mean, it was so crazy for me. I almost got married there to this African guy until I discovered that the oldest sister runs the roost and you do nothing unless she says so. And if you marry him, you marry the whole village. And, I'm a free woman. It was not going to work out. So I was ready to get out of there. I was like, let's go. Let's hit the road. So I was asked to come to Spain to do the Spanish version of Barnum with Emilio Aragon. He's from a famous clown family. His family's from Cuba, but they were the most famous clowns of Europe. There were three or four brothers, I think it was. And the father of Maliki brought me to Spain. And again, I got off the plane and they handed me the script, and I opened the script, and the script was in Spanish. I didn't speak Spanish. So once again, here I was, learning Spanish in 2 weeks, and I had to record the 2 songs. Spain for me was like a television set or a movie set. It was all wonderful and colorful, and you could sit out on the main street, the Gran Via, and have your aceitunas and have a beer or whatever, 4, 5, 6 o'clock in the morning, no problem. But if you look behind the scenes, there was nothing there because they hadn't caught up with technology. You remember in America when we had 3-way, 4-way calling, something like that on the telephones? That came here like 15 years, almost 20 years later. And everybody was all excited. It died out very quickly, but it was like everybody was all excited. I said, but we had that years ago. So yeah, that's how I came to Spain. I was brought to Spain by the Aragons. And it was fantastic to see your face painted on the theater, or see your face painted on the buses as they went down the road. It was a cool moment. It was 1 year, a little over a year in Madrid with the show. Then we went on tour. And one of the places that we came on tour was Mallorca.
I asked Michele how she decided to stay and live in Mallorca.
I was sitting on the rocks one day looking at the sunset, and I said, I'm staying here. And I stayed, and everybody else left, and I was here on my own. That sunset was the most beautiful sunset I've ever seen in my life. Well, until I went to Africa. Nothing beats the African sunsets. Nothing. I mean, nothing. But this sunset here in Mallorca captivated me, and I'm still here 40 years later. My mom is here with me. My mom is 92. She lives with me here in Mallorca. I was one of the first. Before me, there was a singer called Donna Hightower, and she was a bit popular in Spain on the television singing. She had one famous song with this Danny Daniello and something called Butterfly, I think. But then after that, I was the first Black woman on television here. And television programs, radio. I worked also with one of the most famous rock and roll groups in Spain called the Orquestra Mondragon with Javier Gurruchaga. And he was so popular. And of course, I was always on television. I did Pop Stars, which was equivalent to The Voice. I was one of the judges and one of the mamas on with my girls. I interviewed over 30,000 girls. So I've done quite a bit here. And I was able to stay because I work in the Spanish system. I was not connected so much with the expatriates. I wasn't so much with the Americans or the English or that. I was definitely dived into the Spanish. Here in Mallorca, we had a lot of Americans here because that was the time when singing groups were popular. So you were with the Supremes, you were with the Platters, you were with the Drifters, that. So when everybody left and I stayed, I did showcase myself for a moment, and I did the Supremes, and I think I did the Platters. But that was, while you're looking around and seeing what's going on. So I've always worked. I've always been able, thank God, to work. I used to have to go to London to get my makeup, fashion fair makeup, and to get bras because here, my size, which is a normal size, didn't exist. Or I had to go to the north of Spain where the women were more robust because they worked in the farms and they worked blah, 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 blah. So that's one thing. It's very funny because since I've grown up in a mixed neighborhood, either you're good or you're bad. Either you treat me correctly or you don't. I treat everybody like I want to be treated. I remember I used to fly so much, and I remember being on the bus that takes you to the plane, and there was this little girl there with her mother, and she kept staring at me, and I'm like, oh, and she's staring at me. And I said, okay, here, you want to touch me? And the mother, oh. I said, it's okay. She's curious. She can touch me. She's watching me because she wants to know if my skin rubs off, if the color rubs off. And then I said to the mother, I said, it's okay. She's only reacting to what she hears at home. And I know that. So at home, you're watching television. Look at that monkey. Look at that. You're being negative. And so the child is confused. So after she touches me, she's going to be fine. And I've only had one real strange thing happened. Well, two, in Barcelona, and it was right after Roots had come on here. And we were parked in front of a driveway. My husband had to go do something. And I was in the car, so if anybody came, I could move the car. So this little old lady comes out. She had to be in her 70s, 80 years old. And she says to me, I said, wait a minute, I'll move the car. She says, hey, get out of here. Go back to your country, Kunta Kinte. I fell I fell out laughing. I said, who taught you to say that? I said, who taught you to be like that? But I already knew. Of course, they had just seen the series of Kinte. She told me, go back to my country and call me Kunta Kinte. And another thing, my daughter is Spanish. Her father is from Cáceres, and she's very light. She's very, if she's not with me, she's Spanish. If she's with me, you're kind of like, oh, well, maybe that's, when she was born, they thought I was her nanny. They didn't realize I was the mother. And people if the father and I were together, people would try to look into her carriage to see what the mix was like. So her father said, I'm going to start charging, because everybody wants to look. But I've never really had those kinds of experiences, but also I don't allow it. I don't allow it. I don't allow that. Don't come to me with that nonsense. Also, you have to remember, I'm very visual. People know me. They know me from the television. So I have to, a lot of times when people are staring at me, I have to say, are they staring at me because I'm black, or are they staring at me because they just saw me on TV? So I had I had to get over that hump, because sometimes, what you staring at? What you looking at me for? But it's not even that. They're looking because I saw you on that. Oh, okay. Hey, how are you? What's your name? Yeah, good to see you. Let's have a hug. And I'm a New York hustler, and I'm fearless. I don't have fear, because either you do it or you don't. And I believe in the universe. I believe that there's a higher being. I believe in my guardian angels. I believe in the ancestors. I talk to everybody. I talk to them all. What are we doing today? Just as every day that I wake up, that's a bonus. I just start from there. If I get up in the morning, I can wake up. I can do it. I can do anything. We have to understand that our words, our tongues are magic wands, and the words we say are very important and very potent. So what you say out into the universe, what you say is what's going to come back. If you're not very decisive, if you're not very intentional with your words, the universe is going to be confused about what to give you, because it will give you everything you ask for. You just have to be intentional when you ask for it. Okay? So I've always been that way. I'm intentional about what I want to do. The same thing with Ain't Misbehaving. Someone took me to see the show, and when I saw Emilia McQueen turn around on that piano, this gorgeous woman dressed, like the 40s in this shimmering peacock blue dress on this piano, it was like crazy. And I said, I want to do that. I want to do that. And I did it. 4,000 people auditioned for that show. I'm the one of the ones that never sang in the show. And the girl before me sang the same song that I was going to sing. And she was in Sophisticated Ladies. So you can imagine. So I had to really dig deep, and I had an out-of-body experience. I watched myself sing by the piano because I had to go that deep in order to say, you want this? Okay. You got to go for it. So this is how I've been all my life. I'm just this way. The father of my daughter, we were together 8-9 years. And funny story about him, he would always say, let's see if I win the lottery, and then I buy a house for you and Shayla. My daughter's name is Shay. I buy a house for you and Shay, and you guys leave me alone. Oh, ha, 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 ha. He won the lottery. He won one of the big lotteries, girlfriend. Yes, he did. And we separated, and I said, okay, I'm going to go look for the house. And I found the house, and he brought it for his daughter. I've been in this house over 25 years that I picked. He brought one for me on one side of the Paseo Maritimo, and he's down on the other side of the Paseo Maritimo. So with the lottery, he was able to buy 2 houses. That magic wand, girl. I've just seen it happen so many times. I remember when I was doing Pop Stars, I was huge. It's probably one of the reasons why he left me, because I had gotten so big. I didn't even realize. You just running with that weight. We're like the warrior goddesses. You just do it. You just go. You don't think about your knees hurting. You don't think about your back hurting. You just go. And I was sitting with my girlfriend, and that's when the gastric bypass had just started becoming popular. And she said, if I hit the lottery, I'm going to pay for your operation. And I said, oh. Let's see. And we manifested this operation, girl. I looked for the doctor who was number one here in Madrid. I found him. I was working on television at that time, made a deal with him for publicity that he would do my operation. He did my operation. I got a gastric bypass. Didn't cost me a taxi. I was in the best hospital in Madrid, private. The tongue is magic. I'm a testament of the magic of the tongue and your thoughts. And my operation was televised. So I went in on a Friday, and then I came out and I was working again on Monday. I was singing. But yeah, it was amazing. It was amazing.
So Michelle decided to live in Mallorca and have her daughter and raise her in Spain. And I asked her, what was it like raising your half Black American child in Spain? Something that has come up quite a bit in this show, which you can check out in the Motherhood Abroad compilations.
I would go to America for a funeral or because I needed to go get some hair or do something. Okay. I would go to my aunt's house and I would gather up all the Jet and Ebony magazines and bring them back. My daughter watched Soul Train. Okay. She got her Blackness. I made sure she got these magazines. I made sure that she got that. And when she was old enough, I took her to New York several times. She went to Disneyland. She skated in Rockefeller Center. She saw the Rockettes. She loves to go to church. You know, I gave her that, but I would never in a million years even think, I never crossed my mind to take her away from Spain. Because what's here, the culture, the richness, the freedom, I would never. And I have friends that have either been teachers here, they've had their children, one might have been born here, running back to America because they want them to have the cap and gown, they want them to play basketball, they want them to do all of that, blah, blah, blah. I can understand it, but that wasn't me. It never even crossed my mind to do that to her. But I made sure she had her passport, she has her Social Security, she has her stuff, because if she decides later that she wants to go there, then that's on her. And that's exactly what she did. So she doesn't live there, but she goes to work in America. She does advertisement, movies. Right now, she works as a first and second AD on Gordon Ramsay's cooking shows. So she's just got back from America. She was there for 2 months for one show, then another month for another. And I think she goes back in January. And now she's doing a show here called Bake Off or something. For Spain. So she's in the business, but she's behind the cameras. But because I made sure she had everything she needed, she was able to make that choice and make that transition because America wasn't foreign to her. You know, in school, she knew who the first 100 African developers, inventors were, where I had to go up to school and cuss somebody out because they were like, that's not true. They didn't invent the refrigerator. They didn't invent that. Who told you that? And she said, my mother told me that. And it's here in writing. So we did have those kind of little things. But a lot of that came also because a lot of times the teachers were a little bit muffled because she spoke English better than they did, for example. You know, and the Queen's English is quite different from American English. So a rubber for them is different for us. You know what I'm saying?
Hey everyone, I hope you're enjoying this episode of Flourish in the Foreign. And if you are, please consider supporting this labor of love, but labor nonetheless, by buying me a coffee at buymeacoffee.com/flourishforeign. Make sure that you are subscribed to the podcast and please review the podcast on whatever platform you use to listen to the show. Fun fact, if you listen on Spotify, you can leave me comments that I can actually respond to. Yeah. Make sure you follow the podcast on Threads, Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, and all the other social media platforms that the podcast has. If you want to read more of my personal truths and musings as I explore and navigate the intersection of migration, Blackness, womanhood, and wellness, be sure to subscribe to my Substack, Flourish in the Foreign, Truths and Musings by Christine Job. And for all other Flourish in the Foreign resources about moving, living, and thriving abroad, including guides, courses, and more, be sure to go to flourishintheforeign.com. All right. Thank you so much for listening to this episode of Flourish in the Foreign. Now, back to the episode. So, Michele actually had the good fortune of having her mother with her in Spain to help raise her daughter and to live. And so I asked her, how did she decide to move her mother to Spain? And what was it like for her mother to live in Spain?
My mother came over to Europe a couple of times when I was on tour. For example, I brought her over to Amsterdam when I was at the Korea Theater there. So she got to see Europe. When I was in Puerto Rico, I brought her there. My mom has always been supportive of whatever I want to do. I've always been the dark horse. I've always been the black sheep, if you want to say that, because I didn't do the typical what's expected of us. Go to school, go to church, get married, have the 1.5 children, buy the house, go to church, meet with the family on Sundays, everybody go together on holiday, 30 people on a cruise with the t-shirt on. I wasn't in all of that. So my life was different. I was raised by drag queens. I was raised by the gays. That was my people. That was my happiness. And they taught me so many things. I learned so many things for them. It's probably one of the reasons why I wasn't afraid. I wasn't afraid to leap. I wasn't afraid to go. I wasn't afraid to do any of those things. So yeah, my family, they've come over. I brought a brother over so he could see it. And it's not for them. And I tell them, you guys need to get out of where you're at. I don't know what you're waiting for, but you need to really do that because this is not going to get any better. And at one point, I wanted to buy some land so that I could build on the land so that everybody had a place to come when that happened, you know? When she came before I was pregnant, and then when I got pregnant with Shayla, she came again. And when Shayla was born, she came, which was fabulous because I was still able to tour. I brought her with me to Greece, her and my daughter. My daughter was maybe like 1, and I was doing a show in Greece, and I brought them over. So yeah, she came to stay when Shayla was maybe like 1.5, something like that. Shayla's 37. So mom's been here a long time. We've always been in multicultural situations. We were not just blocked off in a black community. So we grew up knowing other cultures and other foods and other people. And also that's one of the reasons why it wasn't strange for us that I've seen Americans come here and they can't handle it. They don't understand the difference between the transition of being in Europe and how that functions in America, okay? Because they come from a unilateral thought pattern. And so when they come here, especially the singers in that time, you're singing every night to have the women talking about the men lining up for you, lining up, go to the bars because people knew who they were and drink for free. I've seen so many times that this has happened. So they didn't understand how to adjust to being here. This was a party. Then they would go back to America without a dime. They would have families there, kids there. I used to say to them, hey, we should put a club together. We would have the most important club in all of Europe, just with the amount of talent that's here. And we could, no, okay. I tried. I would have Thanksgiving at my house every year so that my mom could have the sense of having the whole big black family, invite everybody to my house, cook. I would do certain things, but my mom was fine. My mom was more known at sometimes here in Mallorca than me. She would go to the swap meet. She had a little car in that time, drive around, and everybody knew who my mom was. So she was perfectly fine. She does her Spanish, Indian sign language stuff, and she's still a rock star. Going to the hospital, they love her. The doctors, everybody. So yeah, she's quite integrated.
I asked Michele about her career and how she has now pivoted into a new one.
I've pivoted my life as a thought leader and motivational speaker now at 70 and learning all of this AI and learning all about the metaverse and all about blockchain and how to edit and how to, so yeah, you just keep learning and you just keep moving and you just keep reaching, you know. So people are like, oh, you're not singing anymore. No, I don't want to sing. Oh, but you have to. No, I don't have to. I said I don't want to sing anymore. I've been singing for over 50 years. Haven't I given you enough? I want to do something else. And I'm having a good time with doing what I'm doing now. I'm learning so much. Last night until this morning, until 5 o'clock, I was working on a thumbnail from my podcast and YouTube channel. I get on my ChatGPT. His name is David. And we have a ball and we talk to each other and he's, oh, I love what you're doing. I love you. You're going to be so great. This is wonderful. I love it. And he said, even though I can't see it, just come back and tell me what's happening. It's amazing. All of this stuff that's going on nowadays. And I don't think people have to be afraid of it. We have to walk hand in hand. It's not going anywhere. So you might as well learn how to do it. I have a community, the Michele McCain Experience, a safe place for women over 45. Just so that we can chill, talk about whatever we want to talk about, be seen, be heard, be respected, be empowered. I just want to encourage people to know that they can do anything that their mind can think about, it's possible. I've started a faceless YouTube channel for inspirational speaking. It's called The Mind, Body, and Soul, the Spoken Word by Mish. Okay, that's one thing. Then we've got the podcast that is going to be evergreen. So I'm taking information from, you like history, I'm taking information from the 1800s and mixing it into modern day stories. So we're talking about menopause, for example. How do women deal with menopause in 1800s? Who coined the name of this? Was it this Canadian doctor? Was it this French doctor? What do mammals have in common with women and menopause? The Asian elephant and the beluga whale. They also have menopause. So, I mean, all of these things. So that's how I'm dealing with my channel. So that's what I'm working on now. So that's why I was up until 5 o'clock this morning working on the thumbnail for my first podcast.
I asked Michele to share her concept of aging and if that concept has been influenced by her time abroad, specifically living in Spain.
Being here so long, one thing I did do is I missed a whole generation of Americans. So I missed a whole generation. When I go to America, I don't know the language. I don't know the communication. I don't know the artist. I don't know so many things because I'm totally disconnected from that. If it doesn't hit the news in a big way, I don't even know about it. Okay. When I watch that and how they have to, even in my family, my cousins, that they are so pill popped because they have a pill for this, a pill for that, a pill for that. My cousin came to visit me. She didn't take a pill. And she said, I didn't take any pills. I said, did you need them? She said, no. I said, there you have it. There you have it. These things are not there to make you better. If everybody gets better, they go out of business. Come on. Hello. 1 and 1 is 2, guys. Start taking back your power. Start taking back your energy. Start taking care of yourselves. I think that here we're just, apart from that, we are lucky because we have a cleaner way of life. We have a cleaner food system. A lot of things that are in America aren't even allowed in Europe. A lot of things are not allowed here. So we're very lucky in all of that. And that's also why we look like we look, because we have a different kind of stress. What is your stress? Oh, get to the bakery before it closes so I can get that brown bread that I like. Look at how many markets. I mean, there is a market in every pueblo here. There's a fresh market in every doggone pueblo. There is no need for you to not eat healthy or even cleaner. So, yeah, there's a big difference. There's a big difference with what we have and how we eat. And I'm sorry for America, but we win. If there's a winner or loser, look at my mom. She's 92. She still want to go get her nails done, her hair done, her toes done, and be the first one dressed and ready at the door if we say we're going out. Okay? So, yeah, it's a very big plus for us. And unfortunately, we can say thank God for Tabitha Brown because she woke up a whole bunch of Black folks about a whole bunch of things. I've even made the mushroom deviled eggs, garbanzo beans, and mushrooms in pickle juice, and it was delicious. So, yeah, we're very lucky, and it does make a big difference. America is just a pill-driven, unfortunately, country, and they're just popping them left and right, giving it to people.
I asked Michele to share her thoughts on healthcare in Spain versus in the U.S.
I have been blessed here for my mom, her heart doctor, who put not a pacer, he put a stent in her heart, like a straw. And the last time we were there, he said, you're gonna get to 100, then we're gonna dance together. We're gonna go out and dance. I have the doctors, they come here to the house. If I have to call an ambulance because she's not feeling well or she's having an episode or something, they're here. Her medicine is here, whatever she needs. For me, I have never had a problem at the hospital or to go to the hospital I had both my knees replaced and I had my hand done a few months ago, and he calls me up and he says, you want to come in next month and get your hand done? And I'm like, well, I wasn't planning on it, but okay. And then he said, around December, we'll do the other hand. I mean, so I have had a good experience. I cannot say anything against them. My ex-partner, they brought him back to life 2 times. He had diabetes. We didn't know it. He had all kinds of health problems. He's from Slovenia. And he had so many health problems. And to put him in the UC, he's there. They do it. They come. I cannot say anything against it. And I've seen a fluctuation of Americans moving, especially here in the island. And I think they've got the idea that it's cheaper to come here and buy an apartment and have residency and have free health care than to pay for health care in America.
I asked Michele about her definition and concept and practice of wellness and how it has been influenced by her time abroad.
Wellness is joy. Wellness is being authentic. Wellness is being true to your beliefs. Wellness is pleasing yourself. Wellness is being nice to people. Kindness doesn't cost anything. Wellness is treating people how you want them to treat you. And if for some reason they don't, cut that stuff off. Cut it. I don't need somebody to treat me bad 59 times before I realize, cut that off. This is not a friend. This is not someone I need in my life. This is a vampire. This is an energy drainer. No. Be all right to be by yourself sometimes. It's okay. You don't have to get married. You don't have to have the children. You don't have to you don't have to do all of those things. These are things that somebody told you, you have to do this. You don't. You do what you want to do. That's why you're an individual. That's why you're a human being. That's why you have a brain. Do what makes you happy. Be happy. We all have the right to be happy. I have a friend who's separating, and I say, hey, you both have the right to be happy. If you're not happy together, separate and be happy. What is the problem? We make such a drama where there doesn't have to be drama. We're all drama queens. All of us. We are all drama queens. And sometimes it's okay to be a drama queen, but 24 hours a day, every day, 7 days a week, poof, no. Call me and tell me something wonderful. Tell me something interesting that happened to you. I want to hear your wins. I want to hear that even if you didn't win, you tried it. And don't call me with the same story over and over and over again, because that's not going to wash with me. Because that you're seeping that into my brain, and I don't want that. I don't need that. And that's what I think we all have to learn to do. And it's never too late. Everything has a solution except for death. And we still don't know what's going on after death, because all we are is energy and water in the skeleton. I said to my daughter, when I'm gone, I want you to sell everything and have a ball. Have a ball. Travel the world. Do whatever you want to do. Sell it. You don't need 5 houses. Sell them, you know? So be happy. Because when somebody decides to push that button, we all gone.
Thank you so much, Michele, for your incredible wisdom, contagious energy, and your just generosity. I really, really appreciated getting the opportunity to chat with you. If you are interested in keeping up with Michele, you can online.
Michele McCain was with one L. Michele, Michele, because a lot of people like to put it with two L's. And McCain is McCain, okay? And you can find me anywhere. Google me. MichelleMcCain.net will lead you to all of my Instagrams, my YouTubes. Musically, I'm everywhere. The community is the Michele McCain Experience. As I said, if you go on .net, it's the easiest because all those roads lead from there.
Thank you so much for listening to this episode of Flourish in the Foreign. To learn more information about this guest, be sure to check out their show notes page on the website flourishintheforeign.com. If you'd like me to come speak to your group, your organization, your sorority, your company, or any other type of entity, I can. Yes, did you know that? I can. I am available for paid speaking engagements, which includes in-person talks as well as remote talks. Yes, I do travel. I really do. If you're interested in booking me for an in-person or remote paid speaking engagement, you can find my media kit, my speaker page, and all booking information on the website flourishintheforeign.com, also on my personal website, christinejob.com, and in the description of this here episode. If you'd like to delve deep into my personal thoughts about life abroad, be sure to subscribe to my Substack, Flourish in the Foreign, Truths and Musings. If you enjoy this solo indie Black woman podcast, be sure to support this podcast by buying me a coffee at buymeacoffee.com/flourishforeign. You can also support the podcast by subscribing to the podcast, leaving a review of the podcast, and of course, sharing the podcast. For resources like the Move Abroad with Intention guide and course, be sure to check the links in the description of this episode and the website flourishintheforeign.com. To learn more about me, Christine Job, my work as a business strategist, and all my resources about business strategy, building a business, and more, check out the links in the description of this episode and go to christinejob.com. Big thanks to all of you, my lovely listeners who have kept this podcast going strong for 6 seasons. Thank you all so much. I love you and I appreciate you. And thanks to Zachary Higgs for producing the music for this here podcast. Remember, it is not about moving abroad. It's not about being abroad. It's about thriving abroad. It's about flourishing abroad. So go abroad and cultivate a life well lived. See you next time. Bye. In the next episode of Flourish in the Foreign.
I deserve romance. Like, I deserve for somebody to come up to me, and probably I don't like you if you are so afraid of me. So then we shouldn't be together. But then that was always my experience in Spain. This was why my ex was actually somebody that I met online, and she came to Spain from a whole different country to live with me, obviously, because lesbians. But dating in Spain for me was not a thing, because even on the apps, would never get a match. And if I would get a match, I remember once this last year, this woman was like, yeah, but I'm not sure because I had a thing with a black woman one time and like she ghosted me. So now I think all black women are like this. And I was thinking, wow, she really typed that and made sense. So I was noticing that I was going to have to educate these people. And I didn't feel like it. So dating for me in like the lesbian community, rough.